Welcome to the deep dive. So today, we're heading way back, deep into ancient Egypt. We've got a whole stack of stuff to draw on. Travel articles, history pieces, some really interesting research on, Egyptian religion, plus the story of the Haswan High Dam, and these detailed notes on the, well, frankly, incredible project that saved the temples we're talking about.
Yeah, and our mission for this deep dive is
Yeah.
really to give you that feeling, like you're actually there at Abu
Mhm.
Simbel. We want you to feel like you're walking up to these amazing rock-cut temples, getting a sense not just of what they look like, but why they're like that, and the almost unbelievable story of how they're still here for us to see.
Right. So location-wise, Abu Simbel is down in Upper Egypt. That's the southern bit, pretty close to the Sudan border. And now it sits right there on the edge of Lake Nasser. Very dramatic.
And they're not your usual temples built block by block.
Yeah.
Our sources really emphasize this. They're twin rock-cut temples, carved like directly into the side of a mountain.
Wow.
Yeah, way back, 13th century BC, during the time of Pharaoh Ramses II, 19th dynasty.
Okay, so let's try and picture it. You've arrived, you're there, the landscape is huge, this Nubia region stretching out, Lake Nasser nearby, and you start walking towards the temples themselves, and it kind of dawns on you slowly, right? The scale.
Exactly. It's not like, boom, there it is instantly. You're walking.
Yeah.
And there's this massive cliff face. But as you get closer, you start to see it's not just rock. It's sculpted. It's monumental. The sources really talk about this buildup, the sort of anticipation as you approach.
And then, yeah, it hits you, the facade of the Great Temple, Ramesses II's temple. It's just designed to grab you, even from far off, completely dominates the view.
And what grabs you most? Those four enormous statues of Ramesses himself, seated, just staring out.
Huge, right?
Oh, colossal. The sources nail this down. Each one is 21 meters tall. And remember, carved directly from the mountainside, not built, carved in situ.
21 meters. That's what, like a 7-story building? Just
Yeah.
towering over you. Was it just about showing off, raw power, or did the sources suggest something deeper about that scale?
Well, this is where the research into ancient Egyptian religion is so key. You have to remember, Egypt was a theocracy. The pharaoh wasn't just a king, he was seen as a god king.
Right, the divine ruler.
Exactly. He was sort of the connection point between the gods and the people, the center of cosmic order. So building himself that big, embedding himself into the actual living rock, wasn't just ego. It was a physical statement of his divine role, his authority. It shouted, I am eternal, I am essential, visible for miles.
Huh. So the size itself had religious cosmic meaning, not just, look how powerful I am.
Pretty much. And as you get closer, you notice other figures too, right? Down by his feet.
Yeah, smaller figures.
Smaller, relatively speaking. They represent his wife, Queen Nefertari, and some of his children. Tucked in beside his legs, still pretty substantial figures, carved right there, showing their place in, the divine family setup.
Then these figures on the outside, the reliefs, they're the image everyone knows, aren't they? They're iconic, Abu Simbel.
Absolutely iconic. And they perfectly capture the message Ramesses wanted to send. If you look at our sources on Egyptian art, there are these recurring symbols like clenched fists for power, reliefs of kings defeating enemies.
Right.
Ramesses just went for the most imposing, almost overwhelming imagery he could, right on the front door, to stamp his authority and divine status.
You mentioned the sources talk about stuff inside the Great Temple too, like scenes from the Battle of Kadesh. How does a battle fit in a temple for a god king?
Well, it reinforces his other job, right? He wasn't just the spiritual connection. He was the protector of Egypt on earth, maintaining order, both cosmic and, military. So showing his victories inside the temple, it underlines his power, his effectiveness, the god's favor, all part of being the god king.
Makes sense. It's easy to get fixated on the Great Temple, though. But Abu Simbel isn't just one temple. The sources remind us it's a pair. There's the small temple right nearby.
That's right, two huge rock-cut temples next to each other. And the small temple, that one's dedicated to goddess Hathor and to Queen Nefertari.
Ah, so Nefertari gets her own focus there.
She does. While the great temple is overwhelmingly Ramesses, the small temple gives his chief wife and a major goddess real prominence.
Yeah.
It's quite something. You can go inside both, see the hieroglyphs, the reliefs. But yeah, that initial approach, the facade, is just breathtaking.
Okay, so you have this incredible ancient monument carved thousands of years ago, surviving all that time. But then fast forward to the 20th century, and suddenly it's facing this completely new kind of threat.
Yeah, enter the Aswan High Dam. Hugely important project for modern Egypt, controlling the Nile floods, generating electricity, all that. But the consequence, the creation of Lake Nasser, which was going to rise and just swallow Abu Simbel completely, along with lots of other Nubian sites.
That must have caused panic internationally. What did the sources say about the reaction?
Oh, absolutely. A massive international alarm bell went off. UNESCO stepped in, coordinated this huge, unprecedented effort. The goal was audacious, really. Save these giant rock temples from drowning.
How do you even move something carved into a mountain? It sounds impossible.
Well, the Abu Simbel operation, as the sources call it, it's genuinely one of the greatest engineering feats ever. They didn't just, lift it. They had to meticulously dismantle it. They literally sawed the temples into enormous blocks.
Sawed them into pieces.
Yep, over 1,000 massive blocks. Some weighing, 30 tons each. It's mind-boggling.
The precision required.
Unbelievable. And that was just the start. They had to dig out hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of rock from behind and around the temples first, then reinforce the stone itself, then carefully move the blocks to the new site, higher up, and then physically lift them into place using these incredibly powerful hydraulic jacks. The sources mentioned the total lifting capacity was something like 450,000 tons.
Just to lift the pieces back into place. And they basically had to build a new mountain for them, right? To make it look right.
Essentially, yes. The new spot needed a huge concrete dome structure. Built, first we're talking 250,000 cubic meters of concrete concealed inside an artificial hill made of rock rubble, about 300,000 cubic meters of that. All to recreate the original setting and support the reassembled temples. It had to look like it had always been there.
But it wasn't just about the engineering, was it? The sources talk about the sort of human side, the global cooperation.
Oh, totally. It was a massive international collaboration. Hundreds of countries pitched in money, experts, equipment. The cost was huge, around $80 million back then. About half of that was donated by something like 50 different nations.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of global teamwork just for cultural heritage.
Yeah.
It's pretty much unheard of before Abu Simbel.
And the sources point out this wasn't just about saving Abu Simbel, right? It kind of changed how we think about protecting heritage globally.
It absolutely did. It set a whole new standard. You had archaeologists, engineers, anthropologists, all sorts of experts working together. And that whole experience directly fed into creating the UNESCO World Heritage Convention that we have today. Protecting important sites became a truly global concern, partly because of this project.
It's amazing when you think about the journey of these temples, carved 3,000 plus years ago, then lost under sand for centuries, then rediscovered in the early 1800s by Burckhardt,
Right.
only to face this totally modern threat from the dam, and their survival hinged entirely on 20th century tech and people from all over the world deciding it mattered enough to save them.
It's just layers upon layers of history.
So when you walk towards Abu Simbel today, as we've been picturing, you're not just seeing ancient temples, you're seeing the vision of a pharaoh who saw himself as a god, the religious world that created that, the sheer power projected in stone. But you're also seeing this incredible modern story of moving mountains literally to save history.
Yeah, it's this unique blend, isn't it? Ancient Egyptian ambition meeting 20th century engineering and global will. There aren't many places like it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about, maybe mull over. That same human drive for progress, the need to build the Aswan High Dam, control the Nile, power the future, that was the very thing that almost destroyed these ancient wonders. And saving them required maybe one of the biggest acts of cultural preservation ever. What does that whole story tell us really about how we balance building our future with protecting our past?
It's a tricky one, isn't it?